Hey everybody, so straight away there's a second screen kind of app that goes along with this. So if you've got a mobile phone or your laptop, it'd be good if at least a few of you do it. So j.mp/php-UK. I've got it open there. As you see, I'm not a designer. So it's just a jQuery mobile app. Okay, so the point of this talk is to really talk about the real-time web, kind of what is it, the underlying technologies, some examples of how people have used this sort of technology, and the technology that you guys can use, and also some demos. So that's the second screen app. So we'll jump over to some other web pages for some demos too. So this is me. You don't really need to linger on that. Yeah, so I'm Phil Leggetter at Leggetter on Twitter, and I work for Pusher. Hopefully you've enjoyed the hack space upstairs, so we co-sponsored that with Twilio. Okay, so I've done my introduction. I'm going to ask you to use the second screen app to do your introduction, and then we'll talk about kind of the real-time web, what it is. Start thinking about real-time. Do you have real-time data already? Can you use it? Talk about the technologies, what you can build, demos, questions. So hopefully here, I'm connected, which is a green bar at the top. If you go to your second screen up, there we go. So I haven't done any validation on the app as well. So like some invisible person's here. Beer's always a good one. Toaster. I got a toaster when I got married. It's traditional, not validated. Okay. Oh, didn't realize I had to scroll it. So hopefully you get the idea. I mean, you're pushing information from one application to another, which is pretty cool. Now, don't try and do cross. Yeah. Okay. So what is a real-time web? It's obviously quite an important question to answer. So real-time web technologies have been around for over 10 years. I was speaking to a guy earlier. I don't know if he's here. And he said he was using what I'd class as real-time web technologies back in 1995. Now, I didn't even know computers were around then, let alone real-time web technologies. But so originally, financial companies wanted to instantly deliver data from some sort of source of information, financial stats, to a client. Now, web browsers, even back in 2000, were still a great client. It's amazing that no matter what computer you're on, you've got a web browser. So to be able to instantly push information to web browsers was really cool and had a lot of benefit, and especially in finance, where the sooner you get that data, the more you can do with it, the chances are to make some money. So it's not a surprise that finance was the focus of this. But it's taken 10 or more years for the term real-time web to go mainstream. And initially, marketing people jumped on it, and everything was real-time, and everything was real-time web. But fundamentally, there are real technologies that are using real-time web, real-time web apps that are using real-time web technologies. So what do we mean by that? So what we mean is, back in, I don't know, a few years ago, Robert Scoble was speaking about how something called friend feed was potentially a Google killer or something similar. And what he meant there is that for the first time, when you published information, you could go to a search engine and instantly find it. Now, we could do that on our own little apps where we've got one database, but we couldn't do it at scale. So we would post a message on even Twitter, with some eyes. We'd post a message, and instantly someone could discover that information. And the difference with that and Google was that Google would take ages to spider pages once we published a blog post, and we'd be waiting for days for that data to be found and discoverable. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing is the ability to push information to people who are interested. So that technology is around now. We've seen it with, you can't really say we've seen it in Twitter because they don't use, on the client, they use polling. But they do have streams available to connect to and have information pushed to you. So they're the two things, really, the instant discoverability of data and then the instant delivery of data to people that are interested in it. Obviously, you could abuse it, but try to focus on delivering it to people who want it. So one of the obvious things to say is it's not really real time. You're pushing information over the web. So it's not real time in the sense that I'm sitting in a car, I apply my foot to a brake. I want the brakes to clamp down pretty quickly so that I don't crash into the car in front of me. Now that needs to be really fast. When we're talking about real time on the web, it doesn't need to be that fast. I mean, so Pusher as a technology, we deliver stuff in about 300 milliseconds or less. Now that's fine if you're building chat applications, standard web things. Even in finance sometimes, 300 milliseconds can be enough to see a change in a price and execute a trade. And the interesting thing about, I was going to do a silly thing where I slap myself here, but I'm not that good at talking yet. So the other thing about this is, within our apps, we have a moment where data is generated. So it could be we update our database, a trigger fires, or we delete something, or we create something. Now, each of those things is an event within our application. At the minute, we probably just let that event happen and update the database and leave it. But each of these is this opportunity to actually publish that information to people that are interested in receiving it. So one of the things with the real-time web is some people are calling it the evented web, because things happen, data's generated, we can deliver that to people. So as long as the data is received and it still has value, then that's fine. So if I slap myself here, went along through my next 5 slides and then went, ow, he'd be going, that was weird when he slapped himself. He's just shouting out 3 slides later. That ow doesn't relate to the slap. So when the data is generated, it needs to be delivered within a time so that it has context, it has value still. Does that make sense? Yeah? A few nods. Okay. So one of the things about real time is to start thinking in that sense. So obviously, delivering information quickly results in opportunity. In finance, the sooner people receive news, the sooner people receive bid and ask prices, they can act on that and make lots of money. Also with other types of data, again, the sooner you receive it, the more opportunity you have, betting, just to be kind of nosy and in the know and be able to tell everyone first. If you get that information sooner than anyone else, there's opportunity in that. The next thing is push with the technology. So you're delivering information to people that are already interested in it. So they've registered their interest. They don't have to do anything to get that new information. So you've got a mobile phone, you've got a phone number. You don't have to open up your text message application and keep pressing a button to see whether you've got any texts. Or your phone call application, keep pressing the button to see if you've got any incoming phone calls. You've got a number, it identifies you, information can be pushed to you, which is like a phone call or a text message. So it's the same with the web. People register their interest in something. As soon as new information is available that is of interest to them, push it to them. And then the next thing is when it becomes more than just this push. Now, we've all seen push notifications on mobile phones, and they're a really big thing at the minute. But the purpose of those, in some cases, is to just kind of tell you something that you're interested in has happened, and that's fine. But the real opportunity is to go, something's just happened, go into the application and start interacting with that application. And then interacting with other pieces of software that automate interaction, or interacting with other users. And that kind of creates this engaging experience within the application. And that's the opportunity with this technology, I think. Not just live content distribution, but creating these interactive experiences. So I think going back to the red slide, within your applications, I'm sure that you do things where there's data and you don't do anything with it. You kind of just go, okay, that's some data, update the database, leave it. But I'm sure you know users within the system that would be interested in receiving that instantly. So please start thinking about the data that you have, what you're doing within your application, and whether you can think about distributing that and adding some value to your apps with real-time web technologies. So one of the examples I've got is, it's quite old, this capture, is if we think about going to Google at the minute and we search for aliens, we get a historical list basically of stuff. Now, Google's indexing pretty quickly now, so this will probably be a lot different to this if you search now. And it'll be reasonably up to date. But I was going to say look out the window is normally my talk here. If we listen very carefully, we can hear a hum of spacecraft above the brewery. Then this information is completely out of date. There will be information on the web, on Twitter, on Facebook, people blogging, videos, images of stuff about aliens. So really, Google, I've said I'm interested in aliens. Google should be delivering new search results to me as soon as it's available. They should be sending me new pictures. There should be, digital aliens invading my web page. So that's the idea. So I've registered my interest in something. When new information is available, push it to me. Did anybody get that on their phone or their? Good. Okay, so in order to do this, what basic functionality do we need? So you need to be able to connect to the source of information, and ideally hold that connection open. So as soon as the server has new information, it can be pushed to the interested user. You need to be able to subscribe to something to identify what it is you're interested in. So we use channels, and a lot of other technologies use this idea of channels. It's a channel or a topic or subject. So what is it you're interested in? And subscribe to that. Now, I've got events in here because it's kind of a pusher talk adapted. So we provide this abstraction of events, which works quite well with applications. So if you were to use just something where you're subscribed to a channel and you didn't have the events, even in the data, you'd probably say, what type of thing has happened, and here's the data associated with it. So, again, the simple thing is something's been created, something's been updated, something's been deleted. Maybe something's been read because somebody's on a page that other people want to know about. And then there's the data that's delivered with the event. And the same with publishing. So from your server or from other clients, you publish something on a channel, you say what type of thing has happened, and you deliver the data. So it's publish, subscribe. So that's, there are different, so I think I've probably got, yeah. So most of us know about PubSub, and it's what a lot of these real-time web applications use. There are some frameworks out there that actually abstract above that and expose. So you define your objects on the server within your server code, and then the framework generates a JavaScript library, or some JavaScript on the client that lets you interact with these objects on the server from the client. So it's pretty cool, but it's a bit magical. So it hides away maybe all the messaging that's going on. And if you're building mobile apps, you don't want to be sending too much data. So, two technologies that use that, something called dnode, which is obviously a Node library, and SignalR, which is a Microsoft-backed open source .NET library. I think it's probably in ASP.NET 4.5 or something now. I like PubSub, because you can actually swap out the different technologies. So if you decided to use Pusher and you hated it, you can move it out and use another PubSub system. If you decided to use Socket.io and you went, hang on a minute, I'm having to deal with this big scaling issue at the minute, I want to use a hosted service, you could quite easily put Pusher in there, or another hosted service. So the tech, how am I doing for time? Okay. So the guy that I spoke to earlier in 1995 said they were using Java applets. So an applet embedded in a web page can make a persistent connection to a server, so new information can instantly be pushed to that applet. And then you could use something called Live Connect, which is the ability for a plugin to communicate with the web page to push information. So in 2001, I worked for a company called Kaplan Systems, and that's what we were using. And interestingly enough, I didn't know about polling until years later. So polling's the thing we probably do now, right? We poll the server, is there any new information for me? Is there any new information for me? And it's a lot of wasted requests, and it's using up a lot of resource, and it's sending a lot of HTTP header information and responding with HTTP stuff. It's just wasteful. And it's not real time. There's a delay between information being generated and it being delivered. So if real time matters, even less than 10 seconds, then you're missing data that you should get. So this umbrella term came along eventually called COMET, which meant bidirectional simulated communication between a server and a client. So there's two ways of doing this. There's long polling, which is you create a connection, you hold it open. As soon as the server has new information, it closes it and sends the data. The client then creates another connection. As soon as there's new data, closes the connection, sends it. So that's okay, but there's still a bit of a delay between the polling requests. You can lose some data. And then there's streaming. So streaming is connect and hold. So the problem with these things is that in different browsers, you have to implement them in different ways. And also HTTP wasn't, it's built to be request response. And that's not what you're doing here. You're kind of requesting, you're waiting for ages, and eventually you'll get a response. And in different browsers, you need to hack around different things. And eventually, in some browsers, like this response buffer just grows up, and you get a memory leak. So you actually do need to reconnect after a while. But now, in HTML5, because people have been doing these hacks, they've been listening and they've said, okay, two ways are push only, which is like a unidirectional solution, which is server-sent events, something happens. You've got a persistent connection, so it's basically HTTP streaming, which is the Comet hack solution. But with a protocol and defined specification. So event source is the API, service-sent events is like the technology. And my favorite, which is HTML5 WebSockets, because it's a single connection, a TCP connection, bidirectional, full duplex, so messages can zoom past each other. And it's a lot less overhead. You do like an HTTP connection, it upgrades, you've got that persistent connection, and then you can send loads of data over it. And I've got to mention WebRTC, which is really cool. It's about peer-to-peer connections, so people are using it. The focus really is voice and video. So have a look at that if you're interested. But the thing is, we still need these hacks. So although WebSockets are, we use it because we've got a protocol underneath for the pub sub stuff, but we still need an HTTP fallback because not all browsers support WebSockets, and there aren't really good enough polyfills that hide that away. So we need the comment hacks, but WebSockets are definitely the way to go. So the reason that WebSockets are great is because they're a protocol and they're an API. The protocol has been well defined. All the browsers implement it now. IE10, Firefox, Safari, Chrome, Opera, Android native has tried to do it and broken it. But even Safari on iOS, Chrome on Android, Firefox on Android, Opera I think mobile maybe. I'll send my slides around afterwards. You can go to the browser support, but it's pretty good. Oh, even BlackBerry browser. So, yeah. Oh, and also it supports this cross-domain communication. So I can connect from, well, for instance, our service is ws.pusherapp.com, but you can connect to our service from anywhere because we've said allow connections from anywhere. So it supports cross-domain communication out of the box. So for PHP, what can you do? Now, I obviously work for Pusher, but I want to know about what's going on in the landscape of real-time tech. So the only two solutions that I could find, obviously, and these are WebSocket servers, is something called Ratchet, which seems reasonably well maintained, socket2.me, but the link's there, and Wrench. I don't know why they've gone with tools. Anybody know? No? Anyway, Socket? I don't know. Yeah? Okay. So there are two solutions. If you just want to go PHP only, maybe there's other solutions. If you know about them, please tell me. Either share it now or get me afterwards. So the other solution, if you're going to add real-time functionality to your PHP apps, is I'm sure you do polling at the minute, and you need to deal with these requests. But you need to have a separate real-time infrastructure. So Socket.io is the first thing that people tend to go to. Maybe you don't want to write Node. There's also some good technologies like Faye, which is Ruby and Node, SignalR, which is the Microsoft-supported solution, SockJS, which basically provides a WebSocket interface abstracted away rather via JavaScript library, and has loads of different back-end solutions. And there's more. So I've got a list on my site about all the other technologies. And obviously you can use a hosted service like Pusher. Now, my slides and the second screen experience, I've got a shared hosted site with a friend that started a company back in 2001, and I'm using that to host and publish information. So, you offload, if you use a hosted service, you offload all this publishing. So you you want to trigger a message to 1 million people, you make one request to the hosted service, and they distribute it to everyone else. So that's one of the great benefits of this. They also deal with scaling and so on. There are other services available, obviously, and again, they're linked to from my site. So, examples. So this is our code for doing it, but the other libraries and things will do a very similar thing. So when we create a new pusher object, we identify the app we're connecting to. We say encrypted true is optional, but if you're building for mobile and you're using WebSockets, you need to use an encrypted connection because companies like O2 have transparent proxies and you can't make that connection. So I recommend encrypted true. I get told off by my work for that, but you definitely need to use that. And then you subscribe to the thing you're interested in. In this case, it's my presentation, what's going on here, and you bind to the introduction event. So this is actually the code that executed when you sent those messages through. I was connected, I'd subscribed to the channel, you'd sent an AJAX request down to my server, and I just pushed that to Pusher and distributed to my app, and I think you guys have probably also got log messages as well. So this function was called when the event occurred, and then I added an element to an unordered list. So really simple. So if you look at the second screen, oh yeah, these flashy, terrible 3D glasses, that means there's a second screen app experience. So again, I'm not a designer. So here I've got like a little service that's listening to subscriptions, and I can subscribe to something like Now Playing. And then I'm connecting to the Twitter streaming API, and it's sending me any now playing information, and also sending it to your phone. A terrible user experience on the phone, you know, generally in terms of reading tweets. You wouldn't want to read tweets like that. There's no point. Also, you send a lot of information. Your phone's having to process it. It's draining the battery. So don't do that. But it's cool, huh? And what else can I subscribe to? Oh, no, I'll leave that. I'll move on. OK, so where do you trigger information? Which is an interesting thing to think about. Now, if you're not using a hosted service like Pusher, and you've got your own server, then all messages tend to go through you anyway. So it means you are the authority. You have an opportunity to inspect these messages before distributing them to other people. So that's cool. That's the main thing to think about. If the message is important, and maybe somebody's generated, and you want to check the contents of it, you have to be the authority. Your application has to be the authority. So send it via your server. Again, as I said, if you've got your own WebSocket service, that's cool. Or own real-time web service, that's cool. But if you send it via a service such as Pusher or other hosted services, then don't allow client publishing on a channel if you don't trust the user, because they can, you know, I can open up my JavaScript, I'm not going to do it, but, you know, I can open up my JavaScript console. No, I can't. I can go to my downloads. Oh, you know, and I can type code. So you don't want people doing that. It's all right. I'll rickroll you later. OK, so that was the main things to think about there. I won't show you the push code. So basically, you know, you push information to the service. Different libraries will have different ways of doing things. So triggering code from the client. So I can trigger hello world. I can trigger hello PHP K13. I can also should have got this. Now half of these have disappeared though. So, I bet it's got an advert at the start. Oh, anyway, so you know, in here, because the app that you've got open doesn't just just HTML, I can do script. Document.location.href equals that. I can. I better do a semicolon because I like those, and I can trigger that. So. So basically, you know, I wish I could get the world doing this, just rickroll everybody in the world. Okay, how do I stop that? Where's the window? Just rickrolled myself, basically. That's okay, he's got a new song out in 2010. It's quite good. Sorry. Right. Okay. So that's so we have something called private channels, which means that when you subscribe to a channel, there's a callback to your server to say, the person that's trying to subscribe to this, do you want them to do it? And you can go right, but you know you've got a session for this user anyway. You can go, this guy, yeah, I'm going to let them in. This person doesn't have permission to access this. No, I'm going to 30401 them. So I'm going to say no. So think about that. So how's the technology being used? How am I doing for time? OK. OK, so real-time data. So it's just data. So you can distribute information instantly to other services or applications. And that's just data. And it maybe doesn't affect the user. It just affects the functionality of the app. And that's cool. But I like it when you can see things. So financial data, I've mentioned before, flicky things, sports, betting, analytics. So where there's real-time data available is obviously a great use for this. So as I said, I used to work for a company called Kaplan Systems. They used to have something called WebSheet when I first joined them. And then something called Mongoose, which was trying to win over the Reuters Cobra installation. So Reuters Cobra was a desktop fat client. And we went, OK, let's create something called Mongoose, because mongoose, don't know, can at least fight Cobras. And I'm not going to say any more about that, because I'll probably get sued. But you get the idea here. There's loads of flicky data. There's visualizations in charts. There's like a watch list, stuff like that. So it's data, but it's visualized. Google Analytics have got the real-time thing. So you can publish something and instantly see the result of that thing being published, which is quite cool. OK, there's some silly examples. So There's this one, which is the Bieber fever meter. So they're, again, subscribing to the Twitter feed. They're seeing how many times Justin Bieber's been mentioned. They're not sending each tweet as it happens. Is it not working? I just saw you shaking your heads. Just don't like Bieber. I don't know. They work for an agency, I think. Don't know. It's meant to be funny. So what they do is they receive the tweets on the server, they count it, and every second they send it. So they only want to be sending the data as you need it. Originally, they were sending like the whole tweet and all the tweets, and you have to do the counting on the client. And although our web browsers are really awesome now and very powerful, only send the information that's required to the web browser. Because if it's a mobile, again, it's battery is the main resource on there. So the next one, oh no, someone's already been in there. Oh, you're already on it. Is that what's happening? Okay, cool. So, voting is an obvious example. Can I do JavaScript? It's a PHP conference. I've got PHP. I'm obviously quicker than you are. Anyway, so you get the idea. So that's a really good use for it. There's votes.io, which was created at Rails Rumble in the States. It's like, it does that real-time voting. You can put in any questions and things. And then, here's another one, like it's RFU. Oh, it's not very good. But it shows Scotland getting beat, which is, I live in Scotland, so I get to say that and get away with it. Okay, so I want to close this. Okay, so there's notifications. So I mentioned notifications before. So you know that I'm trying to say, use notifications to get the user's attention and bring them into your application. And don't just think, pop-ups. Has anyone? So, think sounds, think something else. Trying to think different user experiences. Don't always think, I want to send a little, what are they called? Growl notification. Think, more than that. I mean, sometimes they're fine, but try and think how you can use notifications to get users' attention and bring them into the application. So ITV News use notifications, and it's not the most exciting use of that, and Twitter do a similar thing, but the problem here is that if you're pushing information to the browser and you slide it down, and especially here when someone's trying to read something, the user experience isn't right. You're going, where's that gone? I was just reading that. So the only solution at the minute is to show one new update, two new updates. Click on it, information spins down. So they did a redesign to make it live news, an activity stream type thing, and they've seen a 10-fold increase in traffic, and that was, 6 months ago. So they also use this sort of thing with sports. I think I'll show that as well. User voice, they've basically created their own email client. I mean, it's not a particularly good picture, but you get the idea. They've also got this thing called Kudos, so the support agent actually gets feedback from people to say, hey, thanks for that help. Instant gratification of doing stuff. So did anyone see the demo that they've been doing, from the hack stuff? Anyone seen the Twilio Pusher integration? Has everybody seen it, or just a few? Okay, well, right, so we'll jump to that. So on that second screen app should be, oh, it's on Heroku, so it might take a look. Has everyone got links to that on the second screen thing, yeah? Okay. Come on. Okay, so Twilio offers a way of, oh no, I've been done again. Please don't redirect me because that'll ruin the demo completely. Yeah, so Twilio offers a way of registering a number. People make a phone call or they send a text message, and then a webhook is made. So an HTTP request is made from Twilio to your own app, and you can do with that what you want. So obviously you can integrate that with real-time web technologies and have SMSs being received. Let me quickly phone it. 0203322 147. Oh, my phone's rubbish. Oh, it's not even me. Anyway, so you get the idea. So people are actually building call centers, distributed call centers. They don't need a central office space anymore. They can use these sort of technologies to have, to not need that building and have people based all over the world in call centers, which is probably why we're getting loads of spammy calls. So there's loads of other examples there. So as I said, I'll distribute the slides and you can have a look at those. Activity streams is obvious, Facebook, Twitter, they're all kind of just something new's happened, activity streams. So it's a really good use. ITV, again, do it using the football. England versus Brazil, they had the game on, and they had the activity that was going on and pushed through highlights. Because you can, if you control that stuff, you can, you can push through adverts, you can push through videos, as long as your trusted source, your publishing information. You have the ability to push anything to these users. So they, as I said, they embed like videos of clips that have just happened. The users just missed something maybe. So the ability to go through the game that had just happened and do stuff. There's mobile as well. So I'll say now, so WebSockets, because they're a protocol, it actually means that people can develop, or people have developed, client libraries that aren't just browser JavaScript solutions. So Objective-C, Java, .NET, ActionScript, even Ruby, anything that can create a TCP connection can ultimately make a WebSocket connection. So I think that WebSockets aren't just like this browser client technology. They're one possible way of real-time communication on the web. So I think they're really exciting. Chat. Now, if you play with this technology, you'll probably build a chat application. So this is the FT. They have a chat solution. We've all used Skype. We've all used IRC. We know what chat is. I'll not bother with this example because you'll just somehow inject script into my page. So one of the things that people use with this sort of stuff is obviously presence. So it's like, who else is online with me? We do it by, you subscribe to a presence channel, and then when someone else comes online, we make a call back to your server. You get to go, is this person allowed to join? Oh, they are. Here's some additional information. So it means that we can distribute our own events on these channels to the clients, which are subscription succeeded, where we provide a list of current people online, member added, so when new people come online, member removed when people disappear. So it's an obvious thing to use when you're doing like chat forums. So, and other solutions, have this idea of presence too. Jesus. Okay, so here's an example that I didn't do, but it's quite funny. And this is rich at our work. So, using a presence that isn't just Phil's online or, that sort of stuff. So again, sorry it's on Heroku. It'll take a little while to spin up. I should have gone through this beforehand. Come on. Is anyone else on there yet?
Probably just a great concern.
Yeah. Heroku, though, it's like a huge hosted service. What's going on? Well, this one's fun as well. Anyway, try it later. Maybe I'll tweet it later on and we can try it. It's like, no, it's a visual representation of the presence. It's a kitchen. You go online, a little man appears, and you can move him around the room. Anyway, so unfortunately that didn't work, but I'll blame Rich for that. That's why John Travolta was there. And collaboration. Now, collaboration is really interesting because I think we've only started to see the beginning of that. So if you think Google Docs, real-time collaboration in spreadsheets, in their Paint app, in documents, we used to send a Word document around and then check it into, God forbid, SharePoint, and then check it out again. And then, real-time collaboration on the same document can save a lot of time. Data synchronization between things, that's an obvious use of this. And I actually live in Dollar in Clackmannanshire in Scotland, and work for Pusher, who are a startup in London. And I could do that because we use Skype, we use IRC, we use Google Docs. So this telecommuting, this sort of technology makes this a lot more possible. Okay, there's an example. I mean, you get the idea. You're collaborating together on a newsletter. You're chatting. I don't know why MailChimp called it the peanut gallery. And you've got a synchronized to-do list about what's going on. So that saves them a lot of time. They have like the CEO in there, have a marketing guy in there, they have the designer in there, all collaborating at the same time rather than revisions. Now, Cloud9 is really cool. So these guys use Socket.io. I think they're on OpenShift, who I mentioned yesterday in my little talk. So it's a collaborative IDE running in the browser. So you go to c9.io. You can have up to 7 developers collaborating on the same code at the same time. And the cool thing is as well, so you can see the chat, you can actually launch the application and be collaborating and debugging it at the same time with the other users, with the other developers. So really, really cool stuff. So I mean, companies like GitHub, they're all distributed. Automatic, is it Automatic? They're all distributed. I bet they use this, this sort of real-time collaboration stuff. And there's some more examples. I think this one's on Heroku as well. So if oh, come on, please. Is anyone else getting this one either? Right, I'm going to leave that in the background. We'll go back to it. So Cheddar, a to-do list. Murally, which is like this collaborative workspace. They're on Azure. 5 minutes? Kanban erase. So, this idea of these boards, again, distributed working is pretty cool. Games. Now, people are always going to build games with this tech as well. Now, if you're going to build, like WebGL, you can build a 3D world that runs in a browser. But I don't know whether this technology is good enough yet to allow us to really build these, truly multiplayer instant games. Now, we really need YouTube. We need something like WebRTC. So things like this, which is Scrabble. No, it's not Scrabble. I'm not allowed to say that. It's word squared. You can snipe in and quickly win points. So gaming is obviously a really good use of this. That's a massive map people are playing, which is quite cool to see these tiles updating. So this is working. Oh, no, it's not working. That's Oh, it is working.
Your shopping list is working now.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. So, I mean, as I said, I'll distribute the slides. So this is cool. You're a ghost. You absorb power from other people. So that's pretty cool. OK, I'll not show this one. So there's another one where it's basically Pong. And for each person that dials in, a paddle appears. And you can move the paddle up and down with 4 and 6. And, win in teams. So there's a video of that, again, in the slides. And second screen. Now, second screen is really interesting. Zbox are probably the best example of that at the minute, but they focus really on linear television. So by that I mean programs that appear, in a standard order on TV. Now, second screen apps work quite well with this, which is an event, and big events in the real world where lots of people are doing the same thing at the same time. But I don't actually have a TV area at home. I stream all my content, so I might watch some live stuff, but it's probably an event that a lot of other people are watching. But for all the other times, I'm on Netflix, I'll catch up on demand on iPlayer. It won't be EastEnders. So it's difficult to think of how these second screen experiences work with this on-demand TV. So, but definitely for events, it's great. For this second screen, it might be that you start watching something, you tell your friends about it, and you use this technology to instantly bring them in to watch it at the same time as them. But I haven't seen a good example of that sort of stuff yet. For I mean, things that, like the Super Bowl, was it Chevrolet? Or somebody did a video, so they would be answering questions during the adverts. They could win cars. And this instant real-time feedback that they would submit a question, they'd get text a car registration number, and if it appeared in the advert, they won the car. And they saw something like 21 million questions answered by creating this second screen experience to work with this live event. So I've spoken about WebSockets. I think they're awesome. As I said, it isn't just browsers. It's any client that can make anything that can make a TCP connection. Think about the user experience, about delivering this data to people. How should you display it? And also the performance. If you send in lots of data, for the user, who takes, 250 milliseconds to register this information coming in, there's no point in sending anything faster than that. And also, the performance on the client still isn't as great as the server, so only send the data that's required, especially on mobile. Also think about Speedy and HTTP2. So Speedy is a way of pipelining multiple, what would have been HTTP requests through one actual connection. So most of our mobile browsers use this already, so Firefox and Chrome and desktop. So that basically it means that you're requesting images and CSS files and JavaScript files actually over only one connection. So that stuff's really cool. And you can actually have WebSockets on, I don't know if you can yet, but soon you will be able to have WebSockets over this connection as well. So it's really cool. Webhooks, so an event occurs, an HTTP request is made to a server. It's real-time web technologies. They're called webhooks for some reason. And then the Internet of Things. Now, the Internet of Things is really cool. It's, it's where digital is bridging physical. So we're seeing some really good examples of that, ReadyMate and NinjaBlocks. No, I won't show that. So go to these things and have a look. It's about, so we've got an Arduino client as well, because an Arduino can make a WebSocket connection. So you can instantly be sending information to objects that control, in this case, like this blocky thing, but it could be closing your garage door, it could be a robot that's hoovering the ground. So we've seen people triggering T-shirt cannons using WebSockets. Now, I don't think there's a use for that in the real world yet, but it's fun. And this is how we innovate and create things. We do crazy stuff, which is what one of the things that hacks are all about. So that's it. The real-time web, it's not just this marketing term. People are building real stuff with it. It's adding proper value to technologies. If you think about Twitter and Facebook, they're basically real-time communication platforms, and they're massive, and they've got loads of money. So that sounds good. Let's try and copy them, and well, not. Let's try and be better than them and build more interactive real-time experiences. Yeah, and it's about, I feel it's about engagement, about interacting with other people or about interacting with systems. So try and think about how you can add this engagement to keep people in your app. So there are, technologies available for PHP to do that. Some people have done long polling. There's these WebSocket frameworks available. I mean, one of the reasons we want to be here is because, you make one request to us, we distribute it, we hold the connections open, and there are other services available. So if you're thinking, oh, I can't build this sort of stuff, the technology is not available for each request that comes into Apache, it uses loads of resource, I need to scale really quickly, then you don't have to use that sort of stuff. You can use Socket.io, or you can use a hosted service. So you can add this functionality now. And do you have this real-time data already? So think about, is the data that I could potentially expose and get some value from? So that's it. As I said, I'll get these slides out. I do a workshop, blah, blah. So any questions? Yo, do you need the mic? Yeah.
Where is it?
Here.
Oh, just down the front, sorry.
Just here.
Hey, thank you. Great talk, by the way, thank you. I just stumbled upon a Quora message from like 2011, and where you'd responded to a question about Pusher versus PubNub, because they used long polling, right? I don't know if that's still the case.
Yeah.
And back then, apparently, people were saying that because WebSockets weren't, as well supported, that there might be issues with proxies and some antivirus programs might block them, etc. How's that changed in the last 2 years or so? What are we looking at right now? Is one more compatible than the other if you're reaching, like in terms of reaching more people that can use it?
So I think you should be using WebSockets. If you use a secure connection, the chances are you'll get through a proxy, a firewall. The antivirus thing's a tricky one. Avast are the worst people for it because they're distributed quite a lot on Windows, and they stopped this. Although I think they might have fixed that. But there'll still be people on the old stuff. So I would still say WebSockets because it's a more efficient, faster way of communicating. But you need to have this fallback, which is what I said earlier. So we do have the HTTP fallback transport now, which we didn't have then. We went to Flash, and then some people didn't have Flash installed, and then there's a client access policy XML document that needs to be requested, and all sorts of pain. So you do need all these solutions. You need somebody. See, got you that time. So you do need. I would definitely say go WebSockets and then have the fallback. You need the fallback. Anyone else? Anyone next door?
Not here. Anyone else wants to comment anything?
I've wowed you all, have I? All right.
Ah, there we go.
Very good. Very good. Cool. All right, thank you very much. As I said, I'll get the slides out. I'll be here as well if you've got any questions up front. Thank you. Cheers.